So here's something interesting. I picked what was almost a full computer for about 25 euros. Those who have followed the channel this past few weeks might remember that I started building a computer made from stuff fans have salvaged or friends had thrown away. And while there is at least one major upgrade that I still plan to do on that computer, while I wait for that component to arrive, I decided to do another experiment. While browsing an app for buying new scrap in my city, I ran into someone selling what seemed like almost an entire PC for barely any money. From what I understood, it was being thrown away for space. Since it included a power supply, which is what I was looking for in the first place, I decided to pick this mysterious PC and build something that we can use to game. What I got for that was a generic case, a rather beefy 500-watt power supply, and a P8H61MX motherboard equipped with an Intel Pentium G860, a rather speedy dual-core Santi-Bridge CPU, which includes a second-generation IntelHD GPU, all under a rather good aftermarket cooler, I might add. Since it was missing a hard drive, I decided to temporarily salvage the same one I'm using on the previous TrashTop. It clicks and it makes noises and is likely on its last legs, but I got it for a very reduced price, so it will do for now. The trickiest part at the moment is RAM. In case you might not have heard, there is currently a strong shortage of NAND memory modules that have sharply increased the prices of RAM sticks. The cheapest RAM I could find was a 4GB DDR3 stick for 20 euros. Almost as much as the case, motherboard, CPU cooler and power supply. God, I hate this freaking shortage. Altogether, this becomes the TrashTop Pentium, an IntelHD power machine built for 55 euros, less than the price of one big game on release. But what can we actually play on this thing? Let's find out. Some of you who follow me on Twitch might have seen a stream of me testing this computer with a Hot on Time, a recent indie platformer and one of my favorite games of 2017. I did a video with an FPS boosting configuration file in the link in the corner. The PC did really well while using this configuration and an external resolution of 720, maintaining near 30 FPS during most test areas. There's still drops, but nothing impossible to manage. Okay, next goes the original release of Skyrim. Using a resolution of 960 by 540 and the stellar ultra-low graphics mod from my old mods video, I managed to maintain near 30 FPS both in towns and combat. Surprisingly, this graphical level does not affect playability as much as I expected. I recently did this video on the first Crysis, so this is a good opportunity to ask ourselves if this TrashTop can indeed run Crysis. And with vegetation and everything else disabled, it certainly can. On 720p and with much better performance than other games. Granted, as I said before, this game could hardly be considered playable in these conditions. Finally, Counter-Strike Global Offensive on a resolution of 960 by 540 and using the auto-exec from my IntelHD video. This game showed worrisomely low numbers on some of the heavier areas of the benchmarking maps, but it performed close to 30 on actual matches. Not terrible, but it could be better. Since this PC has such a big aftermarket cooler, I could not help but wonder if overclocking was possible. And while it does not seem that the Pentium is overclockable, the motherboard does allow for integrated GPU overclocking. Armed with this knowledge, I went into the BIOS and started experimenting. According to the specifications, the maximum GPU clock speed is 1100 MHz, and yet I managed to push it all the way to 1600 MHz before the computer started crashing. Using this, the CSGO benchmark goes from around 28 FPS average to over 35. And of course, actual gameplay does perform a fair bit better. A modest but important improvement. And yet, clearly, this computer has its limits. A lot can be achieved by tweaking and forcing games, and I am definitely getting a lot, considering how little I paid for this. But the 4GB RAM is definitely causing issues, and the very old IntelHD GPU is the main bottleneck for most games, not to mention the fact that it does not support DirectX 11, so we cannot even start new games. The next challenge is, can we expand our RAM capacity and add a GPU, all while trying not to go over a 100 euro budget? Well, that is a topic for another video. Keep an eye out for the next exciting episode of the TrashTop. If you would rather follow this adventure in text format, I'll be writing companion articles for them on ModMy, link in the description. Thank you to the dear Patreons whose donations allow me to buy this trash in the first place.